So today we're going to be talking about the lesson 1.1 the stats lesson 1. I want to take a quick second here and remind you about the things we did yesterday, which are the proficiency practice, the CFU, and the Delta Math. All of you got a good start on those, but yesterday's lesson was a little bit longer than we probably would have liked for the first day. And so today you're going to notice this one's pretty short, and you're going to get a chance to work on those a little bit more if you need to. But we're going to go ahead and go over the math thinking and class practice for stats lesson 1, and then you'll have some time at the end of class to work on some other things. So today we're talking about dot plots. And as you can see, a dot plot is made up of these dots. That's why it's called a dot plot. And what you're going to notice here on the bottom, we've got a number line that's just going to show kind of our range of data. We have numbers on a number line here from 0 to 8. We don't actually have all of those numbers, but that's just to kind of show where our data is. And each dot represents one data point. So in this case, it's surveying people about how many states they visited. So each dot represents one person and how many states they visited. So if we're looking at this first question here, how many people were surveyed for this data? Well, we just have to look at how many dots there are. In this case, there's 7 dots. So there were 7 people surveyed. And then if we're going to state the list of data from this survey, all we're doing is just writing down the numbers for each dot. So this dot represents a 3. These dots here are all 6. So I've got 3 of those. I've got 2 7s. And I've got an 8. So that's my data from this survey, each person and how many states they've gone to. We want to keep that list in order just because we're going to be doing things like the median, where having them in order is really nice. So if we go ahead and start looking at these questions on the right-hand side, they're the same questions we've been asking the entire time so far. So they started off with the mode this time. If we remember, the mode is just the most frequently occurring number. So in this case, that's the 6. It is the most occurring. The median is our middle number. So if we look at our data and find the number right in the middle, that's our median. And then our mean is the average. So for the average, that means we're going to have to add up all of our numbers and divide by how many there are. So I'm going to go over here. Off the screen, I've got my calculator going. I'm going to add up all the numbers, and I get 43 when I add them all up. And I'm going to divide by 7 because there are 7 numbers. Go ahead and do that real quick. So divided by 7, and I get 6.1428. And on your paper it says round to the nearest tenth. So just as a reminder here, that 1 is the 10th spot. So I'm looking at the 4 to tell me whether or not I round that 1 up to a 2 or I leave it alone. So since it's less than 5, I'm going to go 6.1. I'm going to leave that 1 alone. And this is the average. Computer is being very slow. There we go. So if I move down here, we're doing the same basic thing, just backwards. Now they give us our list of data, and they're going to ask us to make the graph before we do the statistics stuff ourselves. So here, if I go ahead and say, okay, well, I've got 2, 2, 2, 2. I've got 4 2s. Well, that's going to mean I'm going to have 4 dots above my 2. Try to keep them nice and evenly spaced to keep them organized. I've got 2 5s, so there's 2 5s. I've got a 7, and I've got an 8. So that's what my data, I've got a 6, a 7, and an 8. Don't miss that one. There we go. They've done the mean for us already, which is really nice. Then they're asking for the median and the mode. For the median, I'm probably still just looking back at this list because it's easier to tell. Right there's my middle. If you need to cross off on the sides, figure out which one's the middle. But it ends up being 5. And for our mode, on our dot plot, that's really easy to tell. It's 2. Sometimes if our numbers aren't in order in the list, it's hard to tell from that list, but with a dot plot, it's pretty easy to tell which one's the mode. Then I've got location to center. So as we've talked about before, the median is always the center. It's the middle, it's the center. That's what it is. Something like the mode here is 2. That's nowhere near the center. So I'm just going to put not center. But the mean, if you look at, the mean is 4.3, so that's like right here. That's actually really close to the center. Not exactly, but we're just going to put close. And the final thing here is the spread, or the range. Just as a quick reminder, that's the maximum minus the minimum. It'd be a good time to just write that down again. You have it somewhere else in your packet, but it's a good idea to have it here too. And so we'll take 8, which is the highest, minus 2, which is the smallest. And that gives us 6 for our range. What I would do here is an example 3. I would try that yourself and then come, unpause the video, come back and look at what I did. So if you can pause it, come back when you're done, start the video again. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to go ahead and put my dots. I've got a 3, I've got a 4, I've got 3 5s, a 6, and a 7. And so what you might notice about that graph is that it's the same on both sides. We call that symmetric. It has symmetry. That just means it's the same on both sides. Now when we have a symmetric graph, you're going to notice something interesting about the mean. The mean, the median, and the mode. So if I go ahead and find the mean, remember I'm going to add up all my numbers. They add up to 35. You can use a calculator if you need to. And there are 7 numbers, which means the mean is 5. If I look at my median, the number right in the middle, well, that's 5. If I look at my mode, that's 5. And so all of these numbers are the same. They're all the center. When you have symmetrical data, it's really what you're going to have is the mean and the median are for sure going to be the same. And usually if it's kind of in this general shape where there's a hump in the middle, then your mode is going to be the same too. So that's really nice. A lot of data in the real world is actually going to look symmetric. It's kind of surprising to a lot of students. But when we take a random group of people and we survey them about some information, it usually ends up very, very close to symmetric. The last thing here is our range, our spread. So I'm going to take my maximum minus my minimum, and that gives me 4 in this case. Okay, so if I take a look at the last box down here, it says we're going to use Desmos to create a dot plot with the following values. So this actually means we're going to be using the graphing calculator. So if you go to desmos.com and go to the graphing calculator, I will pull my graphing calculator over here. That's the URL there if you want to, just desmos.com/calculator. We are going to go ahead and use this to create our dot plot for us. We're not going to have to do it ourselves here. So all you have to do, if you see this direction here, is type L equals, and then we're going to use a square bracket. So L equals square bracket is going to make us a list. And I'm just going to type in this list here. I don't even have to worry about it being in order. So I'm just going to start typing it in with commas in between. And the last one there is 70, and then square bracket. You can see it has 14 elements. The easiest thing in the world to mess up here is just to type one of those numbers wrong, to miss a comma, to miss a number. So go back and double check your numbers. The stuff your calculator does is only as good as the numbers you type in. From here, I'm going to go keep following these directions. It says I'm going to type dot plot parentheses L. Now spell it right, or it does not work. Dot plot parentheses L. If you used a different letter, that's okay. You just have to use the same letter there and there. And what that does is it creates a dot plot for me. You can see there, there's 13 dots. If you notice you're missing a dot, that's because we've got the 70 way out there. So now I've got my whole set of data showing on the screen. I can pinch on my screen as long as you have a touch screen. You can pinch on your screen to zoom. You can use the mouse wheel. You can do the pinch on your trackpad on your Chromebook. There's lots of ways. It's fairly intuitive how you zoom in and out on these. And if you put your mouse right over the axis and hold down the shift key, that's what lets you go in one direction. Or if you put your fingers right over that axis, and pinch up and down, or put it over the x-axis and pinch left to right. That'll let you zoom in and out that way. You can do all that without touching a mouse or a keyboard. Now, the last thing here says the outlier is blank. Hopefully that's pretty obvious that it's 70, but let's just for now suppose that was a typo, and we're going to change it to 7 in our list. I hid mine over here. So I don't want to delete it, I just want to change it to a 7, and then I'm going to readjust my graph so that it looks nice now. And at the bottom here, now we're going to go ahead and find the mean, the median, and the mode. Desmos has 2 of those built right in. So if I want the mean of a list of numbers, I can just type mean of L. And there's my mean. If I want to round that to the nearest tenth, remember 2 is my 10th spot. The 8, which is the next number, is going to tell me round that 2 up to a 3. And so we're going to write for that mean 4.3. There we go. So our mean to the nearest tenth is 4.3. And I would just go ahead and write how to do that on your paper here. We typed in mean of L. If we want the median, all I have to do is type in median of L, and that gives me 4.5. So I'll go back here, and 4.5 would help to write that down. My computer's being really slow, so I'm apologizing for my handwriting. It says median just like that. And then there is no mode button on Desmos. Other tools have it, they just haven't put a mode in yet, probably because it's fairly easy to find on your own. If I look at this dot plot, right there at 5 and right there at 7 are the most common numbers. So we've got 2 modes, 5 and 7. And then our question here of like location to center, we know the median is the center. This 4.3 is close. And over here, the 5 is fairly close. 5 is close. 7 is not. So if you look at that data again on your dot plot, it's not super symmetrical, but it's not crazy far off either. Just as far as that goes. That's why the mean is pretty close to the median there. So I don't know what's happening there. So that's our math thinking in class practice. Once you've got that done, your next steps are the proficiency practice, the CFU, and the Delta Math. The proficiency practice is in your packet. The CFU and Delta Math are both linked on the Canvas page.